And we are live. Welcome, everybody. Lisa Meredith here with some more marketing tips and a special guest, Emily Vales. Hey, Emily.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat today.
I'm thrilled to have you. Now, Emily, if you don't know Emily yet, she is a former teacher turned Pinterest marketing and ad strategist. I think you're at least the second person I know with that story. And it's a pretty makes sense to have that transition for sure. But our friend Emily here helps educational visionaries increase their traffic and turn it into profit through both organic and paid strategies. And specifically, what we're going to talk about today is paid, what's working now in Pinterest ads. So if you were watching the Tailwind show a few months ago, we had Tailwind's ad representative on there, and I had worked with her for years, and she shared a lot of great stuff. But Emily comes at it from a slightly different angle, so we're excited to have her here today. Yeah. So if you have any questions or any thoughts, drop them in the chat. Let me know where you're watching from and how we can help. We're always happy to give specific and customized advice. That's kind of fun. All right, so let us start. Okay, the way you hooked me in, because you asked to come on the show, and I was thrilled, was kind of say, like, what is surprising about what's working now? So do you want to, you just want to kind of give us that answer so we're not in suspense?
Dive right in.
Okay.
So, and I think this is kind of a loaded question because there's so many things with paid advertising that can factor in what's working, especially for your business. Mm-hmm. And with me being a former teacher, I serve obviously teachers mainly, and I just really connected with them and I get their businesses, but I've also worked with other types of businesses and niches. And so I feel like it's given me some good experience. Mm-hmm. I really feel like consideration campaigns are working super well. And one of my clients, and I don't want to jump ahead because I know this is something that we wanted to chat about with it kind of having like a...
And let's just jump in and say consideration campaigns, that's what we used to call traffic campaigns. So if you're used to that older term, that's what we're talking about.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. And then that one big change with consideration campaigns this year too has been that, and I think that this is Pinterest in a way kind of trying to keep up with Facebook. They're making a lot of changes, and they changed consideration campaigns now where they also have CBO, so that campaign budget optimization. Yeah. And so with consideration campaigns, it was kind of interesting at the beginning of the year when they made that change. And, they also changed the name, and I felt like there were some speed bumps. But so one of my clients specifically, though, she is a niche that I think is challenging for promoted pins from the standpoint that she serves business to business.
Oh, great.
So she has a B2B audience. And so she does some coaching, but she has a course where she teaches people how to become a freelancer. And so I think that it can be challenging targeting business to business because Pinterest is a really big consumer platform.
For sure, yeah.
So what I found super surprising specifically for her business is that consideration campaigns are working so much better than conversion. However, in the, I would say bigger picture though, what I think that typically works well on Pinterest, like I said, because it is a consumer platform, e-commerce can absolutely crush it.
Okay, yeah.
Pins on Pinterest. So I think it depends really on your specific business and figuring out what's working now. And I also feel that promoted pins in some ways are more challenging than they were at one point in time because I think they're more competitive. So if you were thinking about going down the promoted pin route and having them work for you, I think you have to be willing to invest money. I think that you are going to have to invest more than you might have had to last year, and also give them time. Now, that's something I've always said to people. I try to be very transparent that it takes, I will not run a campaign for less than 30 days. That's just something I require. But really, I think 3 months is a great starting point because in that
Yeah, that's really hard. It's really hard because people are kind of risk averse and they're used to Facebook. I always told people, if your buying journey cycle is like 2 weeks, if it's 2 weeks from awareness to purchase, you're going to have to give it at least 4 on Pinterest. It's just a very different platform and a very different way that people interact over there.
Absolutely. And then, I mean, I definitely don't know as much about Facebook as Pinterest just because I've not had as much experience.
Yeah, same
But
here.
I quickly figured out it definitely does not take nearly as much time. That's for sure. And I think that people more traditionally go the Facebook ads route
Mhm.
before Pinterest. And
Sure.
so I think people come off of Facebook to Pinterest thinking that. So
Yeah.
as far as, what I'm seeing work now is giving it the time it needs so that that first month you can really work on your targeting, and then hopefully that second month you're at least, breaking even, and then that
Right.
third month really making a return on your ad spend, and then you can really scale from that point. And I say that to people because I think that people have an expectation going into paid advertising that they're going to get like a 10x ROAS right out of the gate. And there's a lot of factors that play into it, even if you have a funnel, which if you're, not familiar with funnel, just basically the buyer experience. If you don't have a funnel that's proven to convert, then you're really, you're really testing it. But even if it is proven to convert on another platform like Facebook, they don't cross over that way.
Right.
So I think that, those things are big changes that I'm seeing this year. And if you want ads to work for you, you have to kind of go into it knowing that. So,
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So something you mentioned that, consumer product goods can do really well on Pinterest. And you mentioned, you just kind of threw out there conversion campaigns. So let's talk about
I just started. I'm
yeah.
being super chatty.
No, it's good. But I want to go back to that and kind of unpack that in case we have people who have items to sell. So we have, kind of we have the B2B, we have service businesses, we have bloggers, we have retail. So with retail, conversion campaigns can work really well. So why don't you explain, like, kindergarten level, what a conversion campaign is and what it's good for?
I'm sorry. I'm laughing because it reminds me, I don't know if you're a fan of The Office, but Michael Scott, that one episode, he's like, explain this to me like I'm 5.
Yes, I think that is a very, very useful request. And I was hoping too, as a former teacher, that would resonate with you.
Yes, yes. So I'm trying to think about this. Okay, so conversion campaigns and consideration campaigns, formerly traffic, obviously they optimize in different ways. So
Right.
for consideration campaigns, you're really optimizing for the click, and that's also how they're built. With conversion, they optimize um, Pinterest. You're basically telling whoever's converting, show the ad to more people like that. So if you're not getting very many conversions, where I see conversion campaigns being tricky for somebody who sells a really high ticket course, like a $997
Mm.
course, those aren't necessarily going to sell like hotcakes. There's some serious nurturing. Whereas retail, something that solves solves their problem right away. Like, let's say I had a discovery call with this client who had some type of baby like organizer that went in their purse. And so that might be a really easy yes for a mom.
Yeah.
So conversion campaigns, that's going to probably, if it's converting better and you're having higher conversions, then it's giving Pinterest so much data to work with. So then
Mhm.
they really know who to serve the campaign to.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so the more conversions you get, then you can do some retargeting. And so there's a lot that plays into it. I don't know if that was a good 5-year-old explanation.
Yeah, I've run several conversion campaigns, but it was for a SaaS product that had a longer sales cycle, and it was very, very difficult. Like, we couldn't optimize for like paid conversions. We had to do like that free sign up, and that was as far as we could go with that kind of conversion window. But I do understand, like, for what you're talking about, for that kind of almost like an impulse buy
Yeah,
kind of thing, it can work a lot better.
I think so. And
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that too, about for people who are like, okay, I do have a course, or maybe even something that is like a retail product that the buyer journey is just a little bit longer. There's, more thought that goes into it. I think that taking a step back in the funnel, so like you said, sending people to like a lead magnet or some type of free offer you have, or I've done it where I've also optimized for add to cart. So if you
that's smart.
aren't
Okay.
familiar with that, you can tell Pinterest in your conversion campaigns what to optimize for. So people who are listening, if you're not sure, you can decide, if you want to optimize for, checkout, add to cart. So I've done that as well,
Smart. Okay.
because usually I get more add to carts than people actually buying. I know I'm one of those people that put stuff in my cart all the time.
Me too. Yes. And then it follows you around the internet, which is exactly what you're doing, which is smart.
Marketing.
Yes, absolutely. You should do that. Yeah. Yeah. And something that surprised me, because I was used to the conversion campaigns or traffic, is that you're not actually paying for each conversion. So you can't bid on it like, okay, a sale is worth $5 to me, so get that for me, please. It really, you're paying for impressions, and they're just trying to get to that number. So what I would do is start off with a bid much higher than what I wanted to pay. And over time, it would optimize. I never really got it to work very well for that SaaS company, but I think that's a good strategy for retail as well.
Yes. And I'm so glad you mentioned that too. That's one thing that's really, like you said, that conversion campaigns are built completely differently with that, cost per 1,000 impressions. And I've had people that, and it would seem like a normal assumption, like you only pay for the people that are actually converting.
That's what it seems like. Yeah.
Well, there's not that much to lose, right? You might not spend any money, but then,
Right.
And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way.
No.
So, for example, and like, I wish I could say every campaign I've ever run was a smashing success, but I had one campaign where it was $200 a day, and it spent every penny that budget, and it was not converting. And this was that
can happen.
audience. And so I will say though, and this was a little bit different, we were actually optimizing for the lead, but we were seeing, like you were saying, more of like a 2-week window where that's the typical buyer journey. So, and we weren't really getting any return on ad spend. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Consideration campaigns were doing so well. It was very, very strange.
And if you're just joining us here, we have with us today Emily Vales, and we are talking about Pinterest ads. So bring your questions, bring your examples. We're going to give you some custom advice if you want it. And we're just talking about the differences kind of between the conversion campaigns and the consideration campaigns, and where to start. Now, I always recommend, if someone is starting, to start with conversion campaigns, because I feel like there's less of a commitment, there's less risk, and more likelihood that they're gonna see some activity that means something to them faster. So what is your go-to if someone says, how do I start?
I say the same thing. I think that starting with a consideration campaign, formerly traffic, I feel like it's hard to get away from that. But I think it's a really solid place to start. And then you can really, especially if you haven't had your Pinterest tag installed. So for people who might not be aware, the Pinterest tag is kind of like the Facebook pixel, where it's basically tracking that data and information of who's going to your site, who's taking actions, and what actions they're taking. And so I think that with consideration campaigns, I think they're a lot less volatile. And I think that starting there is a really solid place. And I find too that in general, you don't have to spend as much on consideration campaigns to get results. Whereas, like I said, with that conversion campaign, I'm usually using a cold audience, so a very large audience, people that are not familiar with the brand. And because it is a large audience, I usually try to have a healthier budget. And so with consideration campaigns, I find that you could have a cold or a warm audience, not as high of a budget, and still get pretty solid results. So I think consideration campaigns are a great place to start, though, for people who are just getting started with.
Okay. completely agree. So something else you wanted to talk about, and I'm very happy to do this, is how promoted pins can inform your organic strategy. So paid can influence your organic, and how do you do that?
Yeah. So I love this that you can have that, get that information from the campaign and use it for in other ways after you're done running the campaign. And so I actually wrote a blog post on this, but some of the things I've really used it for, I really like to look at the keywords. Sometimes it really surprises me which keywords convert the best. I'm running a couple of campaigns right now, and they were not the ones that I thought would be converting the best.
Oh, isn't that great?
Yeah, so I think that it can inform you of, what's resonating with people, and so I like to look at the keywords, even images. I don't typically use pin design as like the main parameter of a split test. I like to split test other things.
Okay.
But I do think so. Here's a fun example, and I know I've heard you talk about this before, so I'm sure you'll appreciate this. I had a client who was so stuck on, and I am going to call it teacherish font.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes. There's like probably thousands of different fonts that teachers like and use. And, I think you also have to know like what resonates with our audience. And if, you're doing well on Pinterest, you do you. But I felt like her results were mixed. We weren't, I wouldn't say crushing it organically. So
Mhm.
when it came time to do a promoted pin, she actually had a very successful campaign. But I decided that I'm going to do a pin that I like the design of, and I'm going to do one that you like. And that's the thing too. It's like trying to meet in the middle when
Yeah.
you're managing somebody's account and you're like, okay, like, so anyways, we had mine with a very like clear, easy to read,
Hmm.
see the call to action, whatever. And then we had hers with maybe some script, some teacherish font. And
Right.
the one that I wanted to use, like, blew it out of the water.
Oh,
So,
that's
like, the click-through rate,
okay.
which for people who might not be familiar with that, the click-through rate really gives you information about if that pin design is really resonating with people. Obviously, there's targeting and other things that play into that. But anyways,
It also brings your cost per click down, which
yes.
it's kind of like with Facebook ads. If your relevant score goes up, your cost goes down. It's the same way with click-through rate on
Yeah.
Pinterest ads.
So it gave us really good information though.
Nice.
I'm like, okay, the audience is saying what so we kind of made some big switches over, and actually organically we saw her traffic going up, and I felt like and I tried to explain too how many people are looking at pins on mobile device, and
Right. Yeah.
if people have been in the Pinterest world for very long, that's probably not a huge shock, not to get crazy with fonts, but it is so hard to to convince some people that are, really feel passionate about what they like. But
Right.
you really have to think about Pinterest is very much so like, putting your audience first, and
Yeah.
what
Well, I mean, good for her for seeing the data and being willing to adapt, right? I mean, yeah, good for her. Okay. Something that you brought up, I wanted to dig into a little bit more about keywords. So when you run a conversion campaign, it's going to ask you, do you want, basically it's asking if you want a cold audience or a retargeting audience. And when you choose, a cold audience, that's when you have options like interests and keywords. Um, I have I have always had a very difficult time getting keyword targeted ads to convert well. And I think it's because of mostly the kind of businesses I've worked with. But tell me what your experience has been with that kind of cold traffic and using keywords and or interests. And and are you using expanded targeting?
so that's a very good question. So
Okay.
don't let me forget the expanded
Too many
target.
questions. I know. Okay, sorry.
No. So the first question though, keywords. So I was for the first multiple months I did Pinterest campaigns. I really stuck to consideration campaigns, and
Hmm.
then we had different features rolled out, like automatic bidding. And when I first started, I also gave a very discounted rate, more of like a beginner. And so also there's that transparency. But for some reason, I just always went to keywords.
Really?
And
Okay.
did start running conversion campaigns, that was just like my instinct was, okay, Pinterest is a search engine. Let's do keywords. And so I've also tested too, where I've combined keywords and interest and then also
Mhm.
separating them out. And to your point, specifically, not always with consideration campaigns, but you were asking about conversion campaigns. With conversion campaigns, I've been finding that my interests audience do better. And I do like
Okay.
to separate them out now. Now,
Yeah.
occasionally, if I have I've done, I'm trying to say look-alike and they're act-alike on
I know, it's hard.
I've done an act-alike audience, and I've started with I might add keywords, which this was interesting because Pinterest um, emailed my client.
Oh,
It went to them because the email associated with the account,
right.
and she forwarded it to me, and they said, with a lookalike, it's a custom audience and you shouldn't have keywords. But I was like, Pinterest, it's also
Mm,
a form of a cold audience,
yes.
and there's millions of people in the audience.
Yeah, I would take issue
So
with that as well. And just want to bring up our friend Vanessa is here. Vanessa Kynes. She was having trouble getting good ROAS on keyword prospecting, cold audiences. But with retargeting, it's been really great. Yeah, same here. Same here. But it's interesting to hear what's working for others.
yeah. So to your point though, Lisa, I've found the same thing, that my interests in general perform better. Actually, the one that I mentioned to you when we were messaging prior to this about my client who's the B2B and
Yeah.
it's that high ticket course right now, we are we actually only have one ad group running, and um it is a interest based audience.
Oh, really?
So I have no keywords in the campaign at all.
Okay.
It's doing really well. So,
Great.
but it's not a conversion campaign either, though.
Right. Yeah, I did do a lot of keywords in the consideration campaigns, and I wanted to do an experiment at one point because I noticed that our organic traffic, of course, was massively impacted by our ad spend. And so if you haven't run Pinterest ads before and might not be aware of this, for our friends watching, that when you run the ad, obviously you're paying for more eyeballs on your pin. And when that happens, you're going to get more saves for that pin. And as that happens, people are going to see their pin and they're going to click on that and you're not paying for it. So that kind of downstream impact continues for months, even after you turn your ad off. So I wanted to see, all right, what is the cheapest way to do this? Like, can I get really cheap clicks and really cheap traffic and exposure for my pin and have it impact down the road? So like, what would be the cheapest way to do that? Now, I found it was interest targeting, and I could get like 25-cent clicks on that.
Yeah, some of my clients that are teachers, and right now is like a crazy time because it's back to school. Like
Oh, yeah.
this is their season. It's like their
Mhm.
shine.
Yes.
Some of their consideration campaigns, though, we're getting like 8 to 10 cents like per click, and they're getting thousands of outbound, um, links, link
Yeah.
clicks per week.
Yeah. I,
Just
I
reporting for one today, it was over 2,500 clicks, outbound clicks to their site in a week. So, like,
that's fantastic.
yeah, that's a lot of
Yeah.
traffic. It's a very, I would say, modest budget. That's $20 a day for a
Mhm.
consideration campaign.
Yeah.
So,
It's funny. I used to do a lot of paid ads for Teachers Pay Teacher Sellers.
yeah.
And that was it was like, if you went over 10 cents a click, it seemed like a lot. you know?
Do you feel like, in general, though, that Pinterest has changed so much? Because I know this for a fact. This person that is the B2B audience that I keep referring to, I have a lot of data on her, so it's really easy to like say, okay, this is over a
Sure.
long period of time. So last year, though, April 2020, she was getting leads for less than $2, which is
Wow.
a really great cost per lead if you're a B2B audience.
Mhm.
And this year, it's like $5 to $10. And really, like, I even like looked at my targeting and different things that I did last year. And I think that Pinterest, as all platforms do, has just changed a lot. And I think that they're more competitive now. And Facebook, I know with iOS updates, that was one
Well,
fact too, was that
yeah, I was going to ask how much impact you thought that had on the competition on Pinterest. I think it's a lot.
yes.
Yeah.
That was kind of, I felt like, a bomb. We went from getting like less than $5 leads on Facebook to $5 to $15 on Facebook because I also did Facebook ads for her as well.
Okay.
So it was interesting to compare the two, especially when you have multiple months of data. I find that, and like maybe it's me, I don't know, but I find that
I doubt it.
but I find that a lot of times people are really gung-ho about ads when they go into launches and stuff, but I don't see the same retention with paid advertising, and they could have really great results. And I think that just depends on what their goals are and what they're doing in their business. So I don't have that many clients where I have like a year and a half of data though. So I like to compare hers for that reason, is that I just have much more to compare.
Yes, that makes sense to me. We have a thought here from Vanessa. She wants to hear how much the drop in ROAS is related to the iOS update. I have a thought on that, but do you have a comment about that?
I would love to hear your thoughts.
Okay. So I think it's a lot, and I think it's less to do with the impact on the Pinterest platform than with the fact that people who were on Facebook are now looking for more affordable alternatives. So I was on some industry leader calls, and I'm just listening to these very smart people talk about what they're going to do with their ad spend this year. And so many of these big spenders were moving Facebook budget to Pinterest that it has had, in my opinion, had a massive impact on the competition. So I think personally, I do think that's the biggest impact. Now, if there are some tracking issues, they're mostly taken care of by something that Pinterest calls enhanced match. So if you haven't set that up, that's something in your ads and under your conversion tab, that will help get around some of that trouble that that is happening when you can't really track like we used to. Okay, so you think people fleeing Facebook IG to Pinterest? Therefore, yes, I absolutely do think that. I heard some big business owners and people in charge of marketing for big businesses saying we are moving a large percentage from Facebook to Pinterest. I also asked our ad rep not that long ago, and she said, absolutely, there's just a lot more competition on the platform. So it's not you, it's not me, it's not Vanessa. It's just changing.
Yeah. I did see a big change. So I feel like there's been so many things in the past year and a half, and then there was the great Pinterest glitch of 2021 in July.
That was painful, wasn't it? So many people got suspended.
Gosh, yes. Yeah, there were some weird things that happened. Like, I didn't see this in any of my client accounts, but I heard people like losing as many as like 30,000 followers and really strange stuff. Like, why would that be?
Yeah,
Like, it's a little bit beyond just like cleaning out
followers. Oh yeah. Yeah, and coinciding with the suspensions that Pinterest came out and said like this was a mistake and we're fixing it, but it's too much of a coincidence that would just happen to be the same time when you lost followers. So I'm hoping that people have gotten their followers back. If you're here and you have or you haven't, let us know. I still see threads in the Pinterest community about that. Like, my followers aren't back. Hopefully that will get fixed. But let's talk a little bit about, all right, so now what is working is giving it time. Consideration campaigns are great. Retargeting is amazing. That's what I always found. Retargeting.
Yeah, I think that's where it's at, especially too. And I will say, I don't have very much experience with e-commerce. I would like to expand on that.
Yeah, same.
But I am in a thread on WhatsApp with a couple of other Pinterest strategists, and they both offer promoted pins. And so, as like one of their services, and both of them do a lot with e-commerce actually.
Okay.
And they said what's working for them now, they do, they like to use conversion for prospecting. And then the dynamic retargeting
Okay.
catalog, they said, is like where it's at for
Oh,
return
wow.
on spend. Now, this is coming from what's working from, these are both like two of really become like good friends. So, I don't have that hands-on experience, but they have, years of experience working with e-commerce, and that's what they said what's working now. Because I actually had a discovery call with somebody who booked me for e-commerce, and I'm like, okay, like you got to give me some pointers. And I do try to be transparent with people. And on the call, I said, I don't have as much experience. I would love to get more experience, but
Yeah.
so it's I always like to be learning. So
Yeah. Well, Vanessa is here to back up what you said. It's interesting because that's what she's hearing too. Yep. Okay. So can you say again what that was? It was.
yeah, so they were using, I forget what they had been previously using for prospecting. So prospecting, really building those leads. But
And using the
so they had
conversion campaigns for prospecting.
yes, conversion campaigns for prospecting, but they had tested something else that they said did not work at all for
Okay.
prospecting. But they said conversion campaigns did work well.
Great.
And that really built that audience. So then they could retarget them. And so they did a dynamic retargeting catalog.
Okay. Wow. I may have to have them on because I don't know what that is.
Yes. So I know that's why I was like, but like I said, I would like to get more experience with e-commerce, but obviously with my teachers, a lot of them, like you said, that was interesting. I didn't realize that you had that experience working with Tpt Sellers, but
They're
a lot of
great.
teachers that I know, but I do, it's so hard with people who are on TPT though, because you can't do some of those fun things like the dynamic retargeting and stuff. And because, we're directing people to TPT, and then even that reporting is hard. You can use UTM
Yeah.
codes, but you know how it
Yeah.
is. There's a lot of breaking of those. So
Yeah. I found that a challenge as well, but the people delightful to work with.
yeah.
Yeah. Love their mission. So let's talk about the future then of Pinterest ads. What do you see coming? What do you want to see coming?
So I mean, I'm really digging them right now. I think that, and if you've made an idea pin on Pinterest, anybody listening, you know that it says it at the top. I don't remember what it says verbatim, but something along the lines of like the feature is not yet available to promote them.
Right. Hint, hint.
Yes. I think that's coming down the line.
Yeah.
And I think that, they're getting a lot of attention and the engagement. And so I think that that's obviously something that we are, going to see in the future. I think it'll be interesting to see how those work and what that entails. So I'm excited to see that. Like I said, I like idea pins. I think that in the beginning I was even hesitant because
Me too.
you go to your website.
Yeah. Yeah. Where's my link?
Right? The whole point of Pinterest. But I am seeing good results in like
Yes.
overall accounts with people who are, creating them. And now, they have that ability where you can tag a product in an idea pin. And so I think that's going to be coming, down the line. And then also, I believe it was supposed to be in September. I'm not sure like if it will be mass rolled out. It seems like with Pinterest, everything accounts slowly get access to it, but
Yeah, it does.
also they'll be doing campaign budget optimization for conversion campaigns.
Okay.
So
Good.
for people who aren't familiar with that, right now it's at ad group level. So you can base the budget based off of your ad group. So it'll
Yeah.
be more similar to Facebook in that way. So
Okay. Yeah, that'll be good. Okay. I have a want and a possible prediction. So I don't have any insight on this.
I'd hear yours.
Okay. So you know how a few months back, a lot of bloggers were very concerned because Pinterest was adding product tags to their pins, right? So you might share an image of maybe a living room and it's to go with your blog post, or maybe it's to go with one of your products. And if you did not tag a product in that pin, Pinterest might then add product tags that would pull up a whole feed of products from verified merchants.
Mm-hmm.
And there were no ads in there. So when people were like, Pinterest is making money off of my pin, no, they weren't. But I think they should. Like, not saying like take advantage of people's pins. I'm saying that space, I think, would be a tremendous place to advertise for e-commerce sellers. So what I'm talking about is if you ever pull up a pin and you see a little dot on them or you see a product tag on it, you can click on that. And sometimes it will show you kind of a range of products. And I would love to be able to advertise in there.
Right. That's some great real estate.
Yeah. And I don't understand why they're not using it.
Because I'm in a couple of different groups. I think that sorry, I'm kind of readjusting here too.
No problem.
I think it's important to, I have a handful of people that I work with and I have experience with, but I like to talk to other people who might have experiences and work with other types of businesses that I don't have as much experience with. And so one of the people in a different group I'm in, where they're all Pinterest strategists, somebody really works with travel bloggers. And I don't know what type of content they would be sharing, but it was doing that though, where they were tagging other things and were like up in arms.
Oh yeah.
Not happy because then was it the more like this that there was weird stuff showing up that was not beneficial to them at all.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I know like Pinterest they understood, like they're like, we get it. And if you don't want us to do that, let us know. We'll take them off. And it was a really fast response from Pinterest in Pinterest terms. So that was a good experience, I think. And they no doubt learned how creators felt about that. But yeah, that's some good real estate right there.
Absolutely. Now, there was one thing, I don't want to interrupt you either, but
no, go ahead.
Because I wanted to know your opinion on this as well.
Okay.
So we were talking earlier about obviously something along the lines of promoted pins. And it was, why is it totally like leaving my brain right now? Where you can make your audience larger. Why am I forgetting? Where you can check it on or off.
Enhanced match. No. Oh, I know what you're talking about too.
Right now too. I'm like, why can I not?
Expanded targeting.
Thank you. I'm like, so silly.
I just went
okay, so when I do Facebook ads, I never leave expanded targeting on there because I have very specifically told Facebook who I want to target. And to me, using the expanded targeting is kind of, in some ways, like throwing that out the window, who I just told them I want them to target. For some reason, and I don't know if it's from like what I had been taught in the past, it was my understanding to always leave that on with Pinterest. However, after you have very specific, now not with a warm audience, but a cold audience, to leave that on. But even so, even if you have a large audience, you can still give, obviously, parameters that you want to be targeting. And so that's where I kind of can't decide. And I've tested both, and I don't know if I feel convicted that I could tell which worked better. How do you feel about that? That's why I'm like, I actually would really like to know your opinion.
Yeah, and if anybody listening has run ads and used expanded targeting, please chime in, because I have used them when I wanted to really jumpstart an ad group or a campaign, to really get it out there, and to spend some money, but I don't really know. My feeling is, like you said, it kind of dilutes the specific targeting that you're doing, and I have run experiments on Pinterest that really showed conclusively that making minor changes in how specific you are with targeting can have a huge impact on your ROAS. But as far as that particular metric, like my ad rep was always like, leave on automatic bidding, which sometimes works, sometimes didn't. We can talk about that in a minute. But expanded targeting was much more of a case by case basis. So kind of the way Pinterest explains it is that it expands your targeting to reach beyond the exact words that you're using or the exact interests that you're using. So like if you're selling recipes. Like if you're talking about recipes, it might expand to snacks. Like Pinterest knows what the related terms and interests are. So I kind of trust them to do that.
Yeah.
But I would like to run a side by side.
Yeah, so that makes sense. Like, and I do agree that making small changes can really heavily impact the performance on a campaign. I know even just turning on or off like targeting even by device and making those
Oh
little
yeah.
changes. But yeah, with the expanded targeting, I just I don't know. I didn't feel like, and that had always been my default for cold audience, was to leave it on. And when I turned it off, I didn't feel like I noticed a big impact either way. But that seems very strange. And so then I'm like, maybe I don't know. So
Okay. If anyone out there has tried it, let us know.
super helpful, but
yeah. If you don't know, you don't know. And that's another test, a test to run another day. But I would like to hear how you achieved 4x ROAS, so return on ad spend, for this high ticket course. And I'm assuming it's the B2B person that we've been talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have, like I said, she's been my client for a year and a half now. And we did take a little hiatus at one point last year. And then there were some weird things. And this is, I think, a good like moral for everybody, is that it really pays to diversify where you are investing in your paid advertising, because we don't own platforms and things can happen. And it's nice to have backups, I guess, so to put it. So she was put in Facebook jail. And I say that she had, like I said, she has a course on teaching people how to become freelancers, not an MLM or like a pyramid scheme. Not that MLMs are that, but they're just, that's not what her business is. It's not an MLM or whatever. And so anyways, somehow, I don't know if somebody reported it as that, but they were real quick to put the lockdown on her ads manager. So that she wasn't able to run, Facebook ads at all. And this happened like right before one of her launches. And she had done so well on Facebook. Like it just made sense for her to invest in Facebook. And the first time I had run her Pinterest ads, like I said, we were getting a really low cost per lead, but the return on ad spend overall just, it's challenging, and I feel like it takes more time even on Pinterest. So like I said, you have that typically like buyer journey where it takes people so much time to make that decision. And hers is, even for it being an expensive course, it's about 2 weeks. And obviously it's even, we're seeing it even longer on Pinterest. So it was going to take time. And at the last year I didn't feel like we gave it enough time. And so this year she was really ready to commit to more than one platform where she was investing money in ad spend. And so we started with consideration campaigns, kind of, especially because we hadn't run ads in a while. So even if you have run ads in the past on Pinterest, if you take a long hiatus, when somebody's starting back up and I manage them, I still will say, hey, like, let's, kind of warm things back up and get that targeting on point again with the consideration campaign. So just a tip too, if you run ads, and that's my opinion. That's not anything obviously anybody has to do.
Oh, well, yeah, I can attest to that. In fact, I was managing ads and I had to like just cut the budget off about 7 or 8 days before the end of the month. And I asked the ad rep, I'm like, I feel like this is going to break something. Like, is this a bad idea? She's like, no, it should be fine. Oh, well, it was not fine. I could not get the spend back up. And, maybe it's something that happened in between, but it seemed like, it was chugging along. And then as soon as I paused it, it was like, I don't know what to do. So, another reason to kind of commit to your consistency.
Yes. So last year though, 2020, and Lisa, please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to think about the timeline for when Pinterest went public. And then I felt like there was a big change too. It might have been more so based off of the facts with conversion campaigns that there was automatic. I think that was it. I'm trying to get my timeline right, but I think it was right around the time that they made automatic bidding. And so the first time we
Okay.
ran campaigns, we were doing conversion and consideration. And the consideration, we were getting a good cost per lead. The conversion campaigns, though, were poo-poo.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't spending. So that was,
Oh, wow.
we couldn't get them to spend. So then when
Okay.
we went to automatic bidding, it did start spending,
Yep.
and it would spend every penny of that budget.
Yes.
We weren't even getting leads. It was
I
only
know.
a
I know.
freebie.
I had a similar experience.
It was
Yeah.
not a hard yes at all. And so I was kind of like, "Hey, look, like, this isn't working for us." And, like, Pinterest, I love Pinterest, but I think that it is not impossible to not get the best advice. And so I had, a rep tell me they were, and I'm always curious to hear what they say, but they had said, I think like $100 to $200 a day. I'm like, "Okay,
Oh,
let's try it." And that's when it was spending every penny. And then you're stuck in this like caveat where you also are like, "Well, did I give it enough time?" Because
right. Right.
I've had conversion campaigns kind of like turn a corner where they will start performing better.
Mhm.
So with hers though, that little Christmas miracle didn't happen.
Oh, no. So what did work?
So we turned the conversion campaigns off, but she's getting the 4x ROAS from a
Mm.
consideration campaign, which
Oh,
I would put money on telling you what I am doing right now would not be anybody's first instinct, and probably exactly what a Pinterest rep would maybe not tell you to do, but we're spending $50 a day.
okay.
We are running a consideration campaign. It's an interest-based audience, so I'm using no keywords at all.
All right.
And this was, and I didn't mention this, and I think this is something that's really interesting. I think that promoted pin campaigns, besides like keywords and images and other things that it can give you information about, it gives you a ton of information about your funnel and if it's a
Mhm.
good funnel for Pinterest, but also your audience. Because when you would look at her audience on Pinterest, it looked like there was a very big base of people who were interested in finance. And we
Oh, yeah. I've seen that too.
yeah, and
Mhm.
it didn't do anything. And one group that was not big was parenting, but she
Hmm.
knows that her like
That makes
that
sense
are
for
buying
her.
are like me,
Okay.
the moms that wanted to work from home. And she's like, and honestly, it was, something that she was like, "Can we test parenting?" I'm like, "Yeah." And that's, I got to give credit to her. I'm like, but it was like not necessarily would have been, because it's not what Pinterest, like you see
Right.
audience
You
info.
certainly wouldn't type in the keyword parenting and expect that to come up.
No,
Okay.
especially because we were, we're targeting moms, but at the same time, it's like work from home ideas, work
Mhm.
at home options,
Yeah.
how to make money from home. And so, anyways, it's just been a very interesting few months in testing different things. And the
Sounds like it.
finance actually really didn't do poorly, but we're just getting a way better return on ad spend from just like this parenting based audience, so interests. And so we tested parenting keywords, so
Oh, yeah.
job ideas for moms. I think we did a lot of other things too that we were really testing here, kind of reaching, like toddler ideas, things like that.
Okay.
That
How'd
really
that work?
didn't even have to do with her business. And I kind of told her, I'm like, this is not something that I would typically do, but I kind of wanted to test it. And so
Mhm.
it didn't do anything.
It didn't. Okay.
All
Well,
the
that's very strange. If the interest worked and the keyword didn't, I guess.
Well, the consideration, that's the thing too that's a little challenging is I told her, I said, we could always just do a campaign keyword based and separate it out so it has like a chance. But that's the thing with campaign budget optimization now. It just, it's kind of nice that it feeds the one that is doing better. But then sometimes when one does better right out of the gate, do you ever feel like you can't decide if the other one even had like a
If it had
fighting
a chance. Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's a thought to have there. I know when I set mine up, I typically set up a campaign for the specific targeting.
chance?
versus a campaign for a specific piece of content. There are a couple different ways you can do it, but it's always, I mean, it's tough either way.
Yes, I know. And sometimes you have to test what's working and see.
I think ideally, like, you would set up a campaign with all the ad groups you needed and all the creative you needed all at the same time. Just let them fly, but that's just it's not practical.
Well, and that's what's hard too, if somebody's not wanting to do it long term, like
Yeah.
multiple months or years. It doesn't give you very much time to test anything. And there's, just like you said, there's so much you can test, and ideally you could do it all at once.
Yeah, right. It's tough, I think, especially with volume. So if you compare Pinterest monthly active users to Facebook monthly active users, there's no comparison, right? So people come off of Facebook ads and they're like, well, why am I only getting 200 clicks a day for, and it's just, it's a totally different game.
It is very different for sure.
Yeah. So, all right. The 4x ROAS came from an unexpected place, and that was interest targeting, right?
But also consideration campaign.
Consideration, yeah.
So, yeah. And so, we were getting, it was a little high, the cost per lead. It's been between like $7 and $9. But I think that it's really important, and I tell people this, that you have to really think about like your objective for running the campaign. And really, ultimately, she wants to get people in her funnel because she knows that her funnel converts really well. And so, even though it was a consideration campaign, we were able to see that data, and that we were, getting checkouts from these campaigns. So it was exciting to see that.
Yeah, it is. And to know that you can use that insight going forward on all kinds of her marketing.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. So the types of items that sell really well on Pinterest versus those that do not. And I'm not talking about B2B versus e-commerce. I'm more talking about e-commerce. Do you have any thoughts about what sells and what doesn't?
As far as e-commerce?
Yeah.
I don't have as much experience where I feel like I could say with conviction. I know that's not a great...
No, that's fine. No, that's a perfect answer if that's your answer. Yeah. Yeah.
I could give some guesses, but what are your thoughts though? Do you feel like
Well, I'm thinking back to when that was what I did with most of my time, was consulting and doing Pinterest ads. And people would come to me and say, all right, I want to do Pinterest ads for my e-commerce store. And I would look at it and it would be stuff you could buy anywhere, right? Mm-hmm. It was practically a commodity, right? A mug with a saying on it that I've seen a million times.
Like, and to me, that's Dad.
Yeah. And it was like, yeah, I was like, we can't sell this on Pinterest. It's just not going to work. So to me, part of it comes down to that like sweet spot and price, right? Because at some point it's not worth it to advertise. And another point, like you said earlier, people aren't going to buy it on spur of the moment like that. It's going to be more of a warming up process. But things that you can't buy just anywhere.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Well, okay, so and they've done well organically, but that client, or it was really a potential client that we had a discovery call for, they had that baby item, and I have 2 young children, a 3.5 and a 1.5-year-old. Like, wow. I am their target audience.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, you get them.
Yes, and it was something that I had never heard of, and I think that when I have used Pinterest for so many years as a user before I ever did Pinterest strategy. And, I did the wedding planning and the baby ideas, and I still use it from like my girls' birthdays and stuff. And you are in that planning and you're thinking of like, ideas for your baby registry and stuff. And that's how people, and it's these unique, like you're saying, products that they might have not seen anywhere else. And, to a certain extent, you might be searching something a little bit more broad, and then you stumble across these really cool solutions to problems you might not, even though you
No, and now all of a sudden you must buy something in order to fix it.
Yeah. So in
Yeah.
general, you might need baby items, but it's kind of cool that, if you're, targeting parents in general, that I think that sometimes your best conversions obviously come from, because Pinterest is a very people go there with a problem, and they're also
Yeah.
gathering ideas and stuff. And so in some ways it's obviously a really good top of funnel platform.
No, totally. Yeah.
You solve that person's really specific problem. I mean, got them
They're
hooked right
golden.
now.
Yeah, and I don't think people go to Pinterest to buy diapers or,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's a place for creativity all the way around. So I think anything that has that kind of spark of excitement, like Pinterest is always talking about fresh, new, exciting, and that's what people are looking for there. So
Stuff
if you
found
like,
anywhere else.
yeah, so if you have that, like that's what I would want to advertise.
Oh,
Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, so one other thing on that, one of my friends now, she was one of the ones that did the paid advertising, and she has a lot more
Mhm.
experience with e-commerce. One of her clients that is doing so well, I think it's basically like in the animal niche, and they have some type of animal product. But to your point with like the really new and different inventive ideas, I think, there's tons of people have a pet, and so especially dogs. And so it was unique though, and they are crushing it. And that might not be my first instinct, especially like when you get asked that, like, what do you think does well
Mhm.
on Pinterest? But when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, you were so right. Like it's, unique stuff and that
Yeah, cool.
fresh ideas. So
Very
love
cool.
that.
All right, we have kind of an unrelated question from Tracy, but I do want to cover that because I'm very grateful for people stopping in. Tracy wants to know, how often should I be creating idea pins?
So that is a great question. I
Mhm.
think that one a week, or maybe 1 to 2 a week, is a great place to start. Um, I make idea pins for my clients, and then some of my clients, it's not something that they've added onto their package. I had this, base package from, years ago that didn't include idea pins because
Mhm. They
it's a
didn't
thing.
exist. Yeah, right.
And obviously I upped my prices because they do take a lot of time. So
Yes, I do.
some of my clients though that create a, a higher volume, I don't know that I feel like they are getting a lot better results than the ones that are just doing them consistently 1 to 2 a week. But I would be
That's
interested to hear your thoughts, Elisa.
well, I got a message from somebody whose podcast I was on, and we talked about idea pins a lot, and she's all excited and she wants to do a challenge with her group. She's doing one a day, and I'm like, how are you doing
That's a
that? It is a lot.
Well, you're talking best practices too, and really, like, I tell people, I believe Pinterest has 8 to 10 pages. I see good results with 5 to 10, but
Yeah.
you think about it too, and some of my clients, and I'm like, I've heard people say this before, and I totally agree with it. Like, it takes Pinterest sometimes a while to mean what they say, and I see pins doing really well that have one
Oh,
page.
I know. Me too. Yes, me too. Those
Girl,
are going to fall off. I'm
I,
sure of it.
I think so. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's better if I'm doing 5 to 10.
I know, right? Yeah. I do one a week for myself, and I'm not doing it for business. I'm doing it as an experiment. I paint in my free time. And so I was already making the content because I wanted to see, all right, I want to kind of document what materials I'm using. I want to show the process. So if I end up with something I like, which I don't always, I can look back and see what was it that I did. So I had this for months and months of work.
Yeah. Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so like I have the content, I just have to put it up as an idea pin, and it is, I'm loving it. Like I was like you, like idea pins, who's gonna make those? You can't link, but they've hooked me. Like I love to tag the manufacturer of
Yeah.
the pigment that I'm using, and they come and comment on it, or the
Oh,
paint I'm using, and they comment on it. It's like that's not going to happen in a year, right? So because there's going to be too much going on for them to pay attention. But now, like it is a whole new world. And I feel like
maybe if you were one of those people that had always been,
maybe, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, one a week is all I can handle really, but I'm trying to stay very consistent. And I do think that that is important.
I was going to say, I think consistency is key. And I think that if you know yourself and if you can't keep up with one a day, then don't go that route. Do 1 or 2 a week if that's what you can keep up with. For me, like doing 2 a week is like for clients.
Oh yeah. It's hard. And how do you do that? Because I have noticed that the ones with, or it seems like the ones with video do better, especially the like video on the very first page. So if you're trying to do that for a client, like maybe there are people who are watching who are trying to do the same thing. Like how do you do that? Did they give you the video or what?
I do ask for video, and some have like ones that they've taken from other platforms that, you know, we repurpose. Like some of them are even mobiles. Now some of them have gotten kind of like mixed results on, and we've tried to, you know, do the content repurposing, but I do have them give me videos, and I see how I can work them in, but it's a little challenging, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I bet it is. I bet. Now, are you creating them on mobile or desktop, or how are you doing it?
So that's the thing is, and Pinterest, I know, has said this. I watched their creators, you know, where it was, I think that was like a week or two, no, maybe longer ago. Anyways, do you know what I'm talking about? Where they were speaking really all about idea pins. And they really advise doing it on mobile.
Oh, yes.
And the thing that's challenging is logging into people's Pinterest account from my mobile device because I use LastPass for privacy. And so like it just creates a whole new element. And so I've done that on desktop, but I'm going to move because I just realized my computer's dying.
Oh yeah. And we're at time. Goodness. Okay. Finish that thought.
Yes. Oh, you don't have the stickers, the voiceover, the music. I mean, you really should be. I have like an idea pin starter kit where I'm teaching people how to make idea pins, but you really need to be making them on mobile. I feel like for, you know, optimal results.
Yeah. I made some on desktop first, and that was just a series of videos based on a blog post. It took me 5 hours to make it. I'm not even kidding, because I wanted to do everything exactly the way it was supposed to be, and I just will never do that again now that I am using it on mobile.
Yes, no, mobile is so much easier because I make things for myself on mobile. So, I mean, that's the other thing for my clients is trying to figure out a way that I can do them on mobile, but also quickly, or not on mobile, excuse me, desktop. So I haven't. If you come up
with a workflow for that, I mean, we want to hear it because it's right now it's very time consuming, but I'm glad we heard that reassuring ding of the charger being connected to your laptop.
Was that 1% of people
total anxiety? Yes, it's a very unnerving feeling. Okay, well, we may have to have you back on because we didn't cover all the questions, which is typical. And if Jeff was here, he'd be like, "See, you always asked too many questions." But he's running
too. If you can't tell,
what's that?
I said I am a talker too. So.
Oh, I love it. And there's your little friend.
Oh yes.
You want to say hi?
You want to say hi, Gigi?
Hi, Gigi. Nice to see you. All right. Well, we are going to share your link one more time if you want to work with Emily, emilyvales.com, or that starter kit sounds very useful. So head on over there and check it out and give Gigi a wave, and we will talk again soon. Thanks for being here, everybody. Appreciate you. And thanks, Emily.
That's fun.
Me too. Bye.